Evening all, thank you Tim, thank you all of you for keeping us here and listening. Appreciate a bit of a graveyard shift, but as the eagle eye of you in the crowd will notice, we've had a rather major rebrand. We've lost the partners and we've gone for a slightly different colour of blue. So so we've actually looked at extending our service lines ever so slightly. So I'll touch upon R&D that Tim mentioned, but we've added grants. So we've actually got 2 people the back end of last year, hired in, best in class, really talented individuals. And we're now offering 3 services within the grants landscape. So the first being application review. So if you have had an Innovate UK grant application, we can do a full in-depth review and just give you peace of mind, give you some feedback, some takeaways to look at potentially improving it. Full end-to-end service, so right from the ideology right through to the full grant application, and then finally post-award quarterly support. So it's quite challenging. It's not here's your grant, enjoy. It is quite challenging actually in terms of the reporting following on from the grant being administered. And there's some topics. Generally speaking, there's 8 real key topics for Innovate UK to be focusing on, but I've tried to keep it semi-relevant for the audience here today. So resource recovery and recycling technologies, I think, again, hearing from today, I think that's something we're all very good at in the industry, but it's a key topic for Innovate to be looking to fund future projects in that space. Bio-based and sustainable materials, so again, you know, what's going into the corrugators. Again, if that's something that you're looking at and toying with the idea, that's definitely something that is grant fundable, certainly from an Innovate UK standpoint. Circular economy, again, it's a bit of a buzzword, but you know, are we doing anything differently? Are we productizing anything out at the end of it? The use of AI and robotics, there's been a couple of conversations with individuals in this room that, you know, I know that's something that's been looking at in terms of materials handling. So again, I think that could be something to potentially kick the tyres on. And then automation towards Industry 4.0 type manufacturing. We've actually recently done we're in partnership with the MTC, who are part of the Catapult. So it's looking at high value manufacturing. So they really are very good at sort of advising around best machinery in class, how to improve your product. In terms of 4 key factors to consider when you are looking at grant funding, so the first of which is this pre-commercial R&D. If you're already out there to your audiences, you're too late. It needs to be that early stage, spitballing ideas, sitting in a meeting room, kicking ideas around. You know, that's the first point that's really important for a grant fundable project. The second is 30% match funding. So, you know, Innovate UK will go up to 70%, not all the time, but it's important that you've got that 30% to match it. There are other options, debt financing, for example, but it is really important just to have that 30% spare. Quarterly arrears, as I mentioned, the reporting is quite onerous, so it is paid in quarterly arrears. There's quite a lot of technical and financial reporting. So again, it's something where that post-award support can be really helpful. And then frequency. The openings are intermittent, so when there is an application that's applicable, you know, I'd recommend really looking into it because certainly for this kind of industry, there's a lot of hot topics around biotech and industries like that where there's an abundance of different funding pools. But for this industry, maybe slightly more limited. So when they are available, I think definitely try and go for it if possible. Patent box, again, this is another service line we've just added, but can be really valuable. Neil, correct me if I'm wrong, was it the Purcell box with that replicated the click? Was it Purcell? Yeah. That was really exciting. I remember sitting in this room and everyone was saying, should it be patented? Should it be patented? Should it not? And there was a bit of a general consensus saying probably going with no, because a lot of people can replicate something similar. So to actually protect it would be very difficult. But the nice thing with a patent is it doesn't actually have to be a product, it can be a service. A process even. Don't know where I got service from. But the benefit of a filed patent, it can be very expensive. You know, dealing with lawyers can be expensive, time and materials can be expensive. But what it can do is if you've got it in a process and you've got a patented part of a process, what that can do is actually just reduce your CT rate to 10%. So anything that's generated as revenue through that process, i.e. a corrugator, for example, you'll be able to decide whether that would be possible, not me. But you know, you can attribute 10% CT rate, so it's a big improvement from the 19 to 25% for you that are profit making. And then finally, R&D tax incentive updates. As Tim alluded to, HMRC are tightening the screws a little bit. The inquiry rates are massively down from sort of the back end of 23, early 24, which has been really pleasing. There's been quite a number of exits from the market from, I don't like saying cowboys, but some indifferent advisors, shall we say. But what HMRC are really focusing at are 4 key areas. The first of which is contemporaneous data capture. So by that I mean that you're actually looking at getting a lot of data throughout the year, so you're keeping a record of it. It doesn't need to be really in detail. It could be an Excel sheet where you've got the product name or project title, who's been involved, project timelines, and a couple of the key points and challenges that you've faced. Companies being more deliberate with their R&D. So again, having something at the start of the year where you're actually having a bit of an ideology session around what R&D you're looking to do in the year. Again, super important for HMRC to see that roadmap. The challenge is, obviously there's going to be examples where you look at projects in the year, reactive to customer requests. But again, it's just something to sort of cover your own back and cover your traces if there is a compliance check. Greater scrutiny on the competent professional involved. That's something we've seen a lot through compliance checks. HMRC have pushed back a lot when somebody said, right, they've got 5 years of experience, a lack of qualifications potentially relevant to the industry. HMRC would definitely argue that they're not a competent professional in the field, so who are they to declare what's innovative and what's not? So actually putting some time into your competent professional bios are really, really important. So, years of experience, projects that they've worked on that are similar, really, really important at framing that project. And then finally, focus on the claim process. So they do want to know a little bit around your relationship with your advisor or your accountant. Have you gone through the technical definition of R&D? Have you gone through the projects? Do you know what qualifies in your industry, what doesn't qualify in your industry? So again, really putting a bit of a focus on that. And then for all of you in this room, done a couple already this year that's been really beneficial, I hope anyway, but we do run sort of a complimentary health check. So any of those that are maybe left in a bit of a lurch with an old claim that's maybe gone badly, we do offer the health check. So what we do is we look at doing quite an in-depth review of a technical report and a previous claim. So we look at the risk profile. Are you at a higher risk to a HMRC compliance check? The size of the benefit, is it representative of the work that you're doing? Value, are you getting value out of R&D claims? Is it something you do see value in moving forward? Is the process slick, or are you having to do a lot of the heavy lifting yourself? And the opportunities, are you looking at all other opportunities such as grants, such as patent box, even things like embedded capital allowances? Are you really getting your eyes open to all of the possible areas of R&D funding? Any questions? I'll be around for a beer, but thank you very much for having me.